In Tunisia, we are designing coaching programs for young people seeking employment and supporting labour-intensive public works in one of those provinces whose economy has been so badly affected by the Libyan crisis next door. But the point to make in general is that country by country in the region, we are reviewing our programs as the circumstances change to make sure that we can optimise support to countries going through transitions. We do not as yet know what the full outcome of the events unfolding across the region will be. We do know that where regimes have fallen and transitions are underway, that hopes are very high. Inevitably, there will be bumps and setbacks along the way too, as the rapid transitions bring about not only new opportunities, but also new lines of division and tension. And the decline in economic growth in the countries undergoing these transitions has also created even more hardship, and that needs to be really very much focused on now. So, in conclusion, yes, we've seen the success of popular movements enforcing political change in key Arab states. That now needs to be followed by the difficult and detailed work of building more inclusive societies, economies, and governance systems. And that task is not done in a day, as Rome was not built in a day. It's going to take perseverance, patience, partnerships, but it's absolutely essential if the legitimate aspirations of those who have already brought about change in their societies and those still struggling for it elsewhere are going to be met. Thank you.
Well, first, thank you very much, Wendy, for your very kind introduction. And let me say what a privilege it is also to be on the panel with Helen Clark, who has not only been an outstanding leader of her country, but has given an energy and a vigor and a moral leadership to the UNDP, and really is responsible for a great deal of the many new ideas that UNDP is coming up with to deal with the Arab Spring and many, many other issues. And Ned Walker, who is a veteran of this region, knows a great deal about it, and now is teaching about it, writing about it, and thinking about it, and has some very contemporary and very compelling ideas that I'm sure he will share with you. From my point of view, it's a particular privilege to be here today. I've been working on the Arab Spring and the ramifications and the policy measures that we need to take to follow it up for the last several months, having visited the region several times and also participated in the Deauville Summit, where the G8 addressed this issue, including inviting the prime ministers and the finance ministers of Tunisia and Egypt. So there's a lot going on, and I'll try to share some thoughts with you about it. Let me first, as a starting point, underscore a point that Helen made a moment ago about the role the UNDP has played in the Arab Human Development Reports. These really were, in many ways, the start of serious thinking about what was going on in this issue, and in part because they were not just good reports, but they came from Arab scholars themselves. It wasn't Westerners telling the Arab world about its problems. It was Arabs speaking to one another, and I think that had a particular element of credibility to it that perhaps a report by outsiders would not have had. It documented in great detail the specific political, economic, social, and developmental challenges that the region has faced over a series of decades, and it also made concrete recommendations for reform, some of which were followed, some of which were not, but it illustrated that reforms are possible and the kinds of reforms that, in fact, are necessary. The events over the last several months have demonstrated the wisdom of these reports. Indeed, the Arab Spring has exposed myths that have long been used to justify a previously stagnant status quo. Let me just touch on some of those myths because they were embedded in the folklore of thinking, particularly by the outside world, but also by the Arab world, about the region. Myth one was that governments can hold on to power without responding to people's aspirations or respecting their legitimate rights. Myth 2 was that the only way to produce change in the region was through violence and conflict. Myth 3 was that the economies that are based on the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of the few, or that fail to provide education and opportunities for all in society, including young people and women, can somehow be competitive in the 21st century. They can't be, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And myth 4, and perhaps the most pernicious of all of these, is that the peoples of this region, among the world's population, uniquely, do not share universal human aspirations for freedom, dignity, and opportunity. In fact, we now know that they share those those views with a vigor, and they share those aspirations. And not only do they share them, they're prepared to go out on the street to demonstrate the importance of meeting the aspirations that they have for freedom, dignity, and opportunity. These are really at the center of the Arab Spring, at the center of the desires of people who went out on the street to demonstrate against their governments. And they, I think, are prevalent throughout the region as well. Today's new generation of young Middle Easterners rejects all these false narratives. They will not accept the status quo. They are connected to the wider world and want to be even more connected to the wider world. And they believe that they too can have a better future. As they reach for this better future, I want to begin today by emphasizing that the United States is deeply committed to a long-term relationship with the people of the Middle East and North Africa. This transformation that is underway has been undertaken by the people of the region themselves, especially the region's younger people, and it has included men and women, young and old, and people from all segments of society. And these are the people we need to identify with and work with to help to build the kind of society these people have gone out on the streets and in some cases risked their lives to promote. We share with enormous admiration the efforts of many people across the region who have bravely and peacefully, for the most part, called for genuine democracy and opportunity, even in the face of often brutal repression, which we now see on TV on an all too regular basis.